now that they say 80% of the food we eat is in the hands of 8 companies.
Yes.
And now they're just working on their bottom line. They're just out there to make money. It's as simple as that. They don't care about nutrition or anything in those food. All they're interested is that bottom line. So things won't change. It's like Keir Starmer, one of new Labour government was supposed to be to put the sugar tax in. I think that'd be phenomenal if anybody could ever bring a sugar tax in, but actually get people to understand the difference between natural sugar and ultra-processed sugar. But a sugar tax would be phenomenal. But I hear now that for them to put a sugar tax in, they've got to get permission off Unilever, Kraft, and all those 8 companies first have got to endorse it. Well, those 8 companies are never going to endorse a sugar tax, because with a sugar tax, they're not going to make any money, and they'll all be those companies will disappear. So, to be a practical mind, we're never going to do that. It's like Brexit. They talk about taking us back into Europe. We're never going to go back into Europe because we'd have to give up the pound. Can you see people in Britain giving up the pound? So it's like it's the culture of how we live and work. So with our food being in such few hands, it's such a fine system. As we look from going through COVID, that nutrition is the last thing on the list. So I think with gut health, mental health, we've got to look at the whole nutrition in our food. And there are some great ambassadors like Tim Spector and 1 or 2 others are doing now. There's some wonderful people explaining it. But as you said, this is just to your champagne top end. It's how you have healthy food available for everybody at a price. But the education, I think the most important thing is to educate humans on the benefits of, and I've seen it. My personal story, I fried thousands of tons of potato chips, of crisps, constant warnings off the government on acrylamides.
What's acrylamides?
Acrylamides is a carcinogenic value in the oil when you cook over 50 degrees.
So that's what makes crisps unhealthy?
Yeah. You've got most fried foods are all carcinogenic. Some of the worst things you can have are ultra processed. So you've got constant warnings of all that. And then you've got sort of from alcohol, you've got alcoholism. I've had my time in that as well. So I've seen it from the producing side as well as the consumer side. So it's the psychology of where we are. I don't want to be like a hypocrite or So I've discovered, but we're all learning. I think in our lives we're all learning how, and we don't want to be dictated to. Like a lot of people, the whole sort of non-alcoholic thing is led by people that are almost preaching. And some people are thinking, no, I deserve my drink. I want my gin and tonic at 6 o'clock, or it relaxes me. So, you know what I mean? I'll have my ultra-processed foods or my Cocoa Pops because they...
Yeah. I also think Rory Sutherland talks about the theoretical perfect, which is a utopia, versus the adjacent possible.
Yes.
And actually these ideas move on the adjacent possible. So the theoretical perfect is everyone's walking around bare feet, like in Bhutan, drinking kombucha, taking walks, unleashing the monkey mind, doing yoga. Like that is just is a great thing to aim for, but it's just never going to be perfect. But the theoretical, the adjacent possible is like, okay, what can we do a little bit to get that way? So with alcohol, the whole alcohol-free movement's actually booting off, not because loads of people are not drinking or going teetotal. Yeah. It's actually because the mass, there's a few people doing that, but the mass are actually doing the adjacent possible, which is, okay, say I'm going out 3 times a week. Yeah. One night, I'll cut off the booze. On the Thursday, on the Friday, I'll have 3 pints and 3 Lucky Saints. On a Saturday, I'll have 8 pints and 1 Lucky Saint. It's the adjacent possible which gets these movements to spread. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to think, what would the adjacent possible be? Because I feel at the minute the whole category of this kombucha and wellness is people are not saying you specifically, but on a macro level, it's a champagne problem. It's like, this is the theoretical perfect. You have to do all these fucking things, do these protocols, eat rabbit food and stuff like that. Sorry, speaking like that. But it's like, how do we get to a place where it's like a bit like the alcohol-free movement, which is the adjacent possible, which is more people doing slightly healthier increments. So where it's like, do you I don't know. I suppose one example of this would be, I actually do think putting the calories on menus at pubs is actually a really good example of that. Yeah. It's like a little thing to do, but it's like, okay, I won't have the pie. You know, you do enough people not having the pie and having the bread.
But if you had more of a nutritional value versus, because I think that's where people go wrong, and that's where Weight Watchers went
I'm just
wrong.
going to check those cameras. I'm listening. Yeah.
Okay, well, people suddenly started dropping out on calories, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's all good. The calories are.
It's like these. There is a movement at the moment for drinks. So a lot of people say, like Dash is a good example.
Yeah.
So people want calorie, sugar-free, calorie-free, everything. So and that's quite an interesting story, because Dash really started out as, what was it called, that apple juice that was, wasn't Capella. It sounds a bit like
Course
Capella.
and Press.
No, before that, all the people that were, when those guys started up Course
San
and Press,
Pellegrino?
no, they used to work for. It's still the most famous apple juice now in retailers. They worked for that, and then they thought, if we mix half water with it and reduce it down, we can make and we'll put it in Tetra Packs. That's how Course and Press came about.
Yeah.
And then Alex and Jack now have taken out all of it and just put a bit of essence in. It's
Yeah.
sort of the same audience, but as people come away from, you know, they want to drink, but they don't want any calories or anything. So it's this. It's this thing, understanding calories, and calories are not bad, but it's just about nutrition, and I think it's education on nutrition, and the only people you're going to educate are going to be the people who really do give a monkeys, the people at the top of the pyramid, that they want value for their money, so they do value whether it's organic or regenerative or, you know, however it's produced, if it's free range, whatever. They actually value the nutrition. But that's a really good point of yours there, because, you know, we went from the one extreme having traffic lights where you have red, amber and green.
What was the traffic lights?
It was a traffic light system for whether it was fat or how much sugar it had got into it, was whether we were just going to have traffic lights. So instead of having the ingredients on the back, you're going to have traffic lights. Whereas, and making food in the last 20 years with brands, this is something that I find fascinating all the time, because it's there to go into something like the distillery where you didn't have to put any nutritional facts on the back about it at all, to doing something with like the crisps where you do. Whereas now, what we're making now, nutritional facts, if you're buying something that's good for you and healthy for you, it's even more important to understand. So if, say, Tyrrell's was organic, would that have made a difference? I don't think it would have done, because crisps are crisps. We looked at it with the alcohol. You know, we had the farm, the story. People didn't care about that. When they're drinking alcohol, they just want to, it's all about the cocktails and the occasion and the fix. But something like this, if you're making a healthy food product that people are taking every day as a catalyst, to put on their food, to bring their food to life, to add probiotics and to add live nutrients to their food, then that's the hardest bit.
We talked last time, and in your book you detail about finding the magic in brands, and I thought it was a really good point. And obviously you found that with Tyrrell's, you found that with Chase, and they are just darling, gorgeous brands. How are you finding the magic with this? What are the hurdles to finding the magic in terms of making it sexy?
Yeah.
You know, I think this whole gut health thing is kind of like having a really good-looking guy or really good-looking woman, but they're dressed like a tramp, and you almost need to like polish them up and make it look presentable to the world and make it look simple. It's almost like the rags are all the complications and stuff. You just make it look really simple. Trip have done a great job of this.
Yes.
CBD, I remember walking around, you know, I was going to say NOP, nope, dope. No, it was basically, you know, NOP, natural organics.
I know.
It was basically...
No show, yeah.
Yeah. It was basically it was either people presenting CBD, and again, this is the whole thing of like a good-looking person in raggy clothes.
What's he going to do? Is he going to get you high? Is he going
to
get you
stoned.
What's
It was
he
like
going to do?
seeing all the kind of the pot semiotics and paraphernalia
Yeah.
on one hand. The other hand, it was really convoluted in that it looked like a pharmacy lab. What Trip did is they took the beautiful personal, beautiful product, and they put it in beautiful clothes.
Yeah.
And now it's a huge whopper brand. And I think this category really interests me, because this is clearly good for you. It's like, how do you make it sexy? You know, with Chase, you literally put the bow tie on the bottles.
Yeah.
The British bow tie, that is a perfect example of making it look sexy, you know? I'd love to know how you'll...
But I think that's probably the $1 million or the $1 billion question.
Yeah.
Is the magic, is the secret sauce. And from my experience, nothing was planned. So whether you've got any of these, whether you watch Dragon's Den or whatever, all of the guys that have made success in life, there's as much luck as there is. It's a lot of hard work, immense amount of hard work, but there's a lot of luck, because I believe there's a lot of people out there that should have done a lot better than they did. They were just at the wrong time in the wrong place. And I think with that one, that's a fantastic point, because I used to call it the magic, but then I think that was probably the wrong expression. So I'd rather refer to it as a secret sauce.
What's the difference between magic and secret sauce?
The secret sauce, to most people, they said, what's the secret sauce? They know what the secret sauce is. The secret sauce is something that works, is something like magic is wizardry, isn't really. But secret sauce, especially in America, there's finding the secret sauce. If you're a trader and you found you can trade and you've got your right stocks and you're working well, that's the secret sauce. So for me, the secret sauce, I didn't plan. And you look at everybody's story. If you look at James Dyson's story, for example, with his secret sauce, his magic, when he discovered it, was the bagless Hoover. But before that, he made a wheelbarrow with a big red ball on the front of it that would go across lawns, and that was going to be his magic, his secret sauce. For me, with Tyrrell's, it was going to be like cider vinegar potato chips were our first thing. Then I thought, we're off to the races with this, that sold. But then when we did the vegetable chips, that was the secret sauce. That was the magic with Tyrrell's. That was the bit that just took it off to the races. That was fantastic. When we built the distillery, I thought vodka, we could make a better quality, pure tasting vodka that would beat sort of Grey Goose, Belvedere, would beat all of the brands. But where I got that wrong was the pedigree and that people aren't so bothered about, rather than the occasion. But where the magic came
What do you mean the occasion?
Where the magic and the secret sauce with the distillery was the pink grapefruit gin. And when we came up with that, for whatever reason, it just sold. It just went ballistic. It was timing, everything about it. It made that business explode, and it was just that was the secret sauce. And it wasn't planned. My plan to build it to make the best tasting vodka in the world and just do that. And then we started making different products. So the secret sauce but the secret sauce now with Willie's, I thought just this would be the secret sauce.
Yeah.
And then now we've got this. This just sells itself. So this is my eureka moment now.
Espressos is sponsored by supply chain software gurus Unleashed. It talks to your eComm and accounting software. It's helped islands cut admin time in half, get granular clarity on your margins, know where your stock is, don't miss availability. Brands like Candy Kittens, Tiny Rebel and Trip all use Unleashed, and so should you.